Okay, thanks. I'm going to try to move with some efficiency because I had the great benefit of knowing some of the things that my colleagues were going to talk about. So anybody who knows me knows equity is my thing. It's my jam. My push is that we mandate equity. I say if there is political will, if there is goodwill, there is a legislative way. I know that most people won't do the right thing simply because they're asked to. Remember being a child and you had curfew, and the first time you violated curfew and nothing happened, what did you do? You continued to violate curfew. But that time you came home, and I remember my mom was sitting in the living room on the couch smoking a cigarette. It was dark, and all I could see was the billow of smoke, and I knew that I was in a world of trouble. Well, after that night, suffice it to say, I didn't break curfew anymore. There were rules that were in place. So this push around mandating equity, and this is, again, relevant to the conversation around how do we, and I'll talk a bit about it, get these anti-racist policies and practices baked into institutions. Our natural drift is to inequity. We don't have to do anything to be an inequitable society, right? And our first speaker, sort of gave the T.D. Jakes definition, right? Operating in a society that wasn't built for you. I think it's even worse than that. Racism got baked into our society. It was actually built in and institutionalized in our founding. Most isms, racism, sexism, we the people, didn't include women or people of color, right? So it actually got baked in. So our natural drift is to inequity. So if it matters, it needs to be policy and law. Those mandates would give stakeholders the pull to figure it out and to partner. And I'll give you a specific example in a sec. Mandates push people to figure it out, and they also inspire communities of practice. We've already heard a few examples, and we're going to hear more from some of my other colleagues about what they're actually doing in their institutions, specific programs. So I took that stuff out of mine because the stuff that they're doing, I'll just go, amen, bravo, I agree with that. So again, if equity matters, this is what I want you to get. It has to be mandated, enforced, and it has to be attached to resources. So let me give you two ways to think about it. Anybody who's heard me talk knows I love this example. It's the first time I ever baked a cake with my daughter, Olivia, who, as it turns out, is graduating with a business degree and now is headed off to culinary school. So lo and behold, we produced a little chef out of this work. So the first time we baked a cake, Olivia said, I want to bake a cake from scratch. And I'm a box cake kind of mom, right? Like, working mom, I call it box cake surprise. I'll throw some applesauce and other key special ingredients in and surprise people that this is a box cake. She didn't want that. So we go to the store, we get all the ingredients. Once the cake is baked, she's over at the wall, looking in the wall oven, and I'm cleaning up, and what do I notice on the counter? A box of Domino sugar unopened. We have baked the whole cake, and we did not put the sugar in. So she sees me, and she says, Mom, what's wrong? I said, oh, sweetie, we made a mistake. We baked the whole cake, and we forgot to put the sugar in. And what do you think she said? She's like 6. She said, well, can't we sprinkle some on top? And I thought that was really cute, right? She's 6. And I was like, we could, baby, but it won't taste like a cake. But that's what we do with equity. We do it as adults. You all do it as institutional leaders. Our institutional leaders do it. They try to sprinkle these little things on top and lose sight of and forget that it was not baked in. We have a fundamental missing. And it's cute when it comes out of the mouth of a 6-year-old. It's not really great when it comes out of our institutional leaders' mouths and they do things and just try to sprinkle it on top. So what I say we have to really do is we have to get it attached to the thing that matters to people. And it becomes this question of the carrot versus the stick. And I say we need both, right? The carrot is that real incentive for people to do the right thing, and sometimes the stick being the prod that people need to do the right thing. So I'm going to give you one more example, and then I'm going to summarize because you probably just got a lot about institutional equity that you didn't realize. And I'm only going to use 6 minutes of time. So here's my son, Gabriel. Love this kid. This is a picture of him about 10 years ago at a Hopkins seminar with Cornell West. It was like the coolest day ever. So Gabriel, when he was an elementary school student, was like a straight A student. Then he goes off to middle school. And what happens in middle school? Those grades start to slip. By the time he's in 8th grade, we call him C's and D's, because that is what his report card is, all C's and D's. And he comes home and says, I want a PlayStation in my room. And I said, great, you want a PlayStation in your room, get straight A's. And he said, if I get straight A's, you'll give me a PlayStation? I said, absolutely. So what do? I go, I buy the TV, the little flat screen TV for it. I buy the PlayStation. I put it in the foyer of our living room. And every day when he comes home, he has to walk by it. I didn't get this kid a tutor. I didn't help him do his homework. I didn't go up to the school and talk with his teachers. I just attached the incentive that mattered to him to the outcome that I wanted. That kid got 5 A's and 1 B. He got an 89. I said, sorry, bud, you swung and you missed. This ain't horseshoes or hand grenades. You didn't get it. You know what he did? I didn't give him any coaching. I didn't do anything. He went back to that school and negotiated with that teacher something. I am not kidding you. And she turned that 89 into a 90, wrote him a letter, crossed it out on his report card and said a new one will be mailed to you, but I attest that Gabriel did the work and blah, blah, blah. And he came home, and what did I do? I gave him his PlayStation. See, when I talk about when you attach it to the thing that matters, it will inspire people. If you attach it to institutions and institutional outcomes, it'll inspire the institutions who are figuring it out to partner with the ones who are not, or to inspire the ones who are not to figure it out from the ones who are. What if those incentives were regional, so that no one institution could pop their chest out and say, not our problem? But if every institution in Boston, whether it be BU, Harvard, or Brandeis, had a metric, and if all of you didn't get it, then none of you got it, and your state funding got cut. These mandates would enforce and require people to figure it out. And just like Gabriel, I know that they can do it. So in the C-suite, my colleagues are going to talk about it. I'm not going to go through it. People should be using their positions of power to elevate people of color, doing the fearless work to identify where they are and are not standing true to what they espouse as values, and adding qualified people in the suite. And just simply being somebody of color does not qualify you, or being in an underrepresented group, to do the work of social justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I know my colleagues will figure that out. I always put the takeaways there at the end. It's just a recap of what I said. And I'll leave you with this last thing, because a lot of times people say, we can't afford to do it. We don't have the money. It's too hard. It's this circular lesson we learned from the movie Friday. And if you remember, Craig got fired for stealing boxes on his day off. And he had to pay Big Worm $200. So he goes to his mom and he says, Mom, loan me $200. And she says, well, Craig, I wouldn't feel comfortable lending you money without a job. And he says, but if I had a job, I wouldn't need to borrow money. And she said, exactly. That's what we do with this work. We get stuck in these circular loops that make no sense and give us all an excuse to run around in circles. And we just have to move forward. Thank you. I'll take questions at the Q&A.